growing weary of running from room to room, practicing one-tooth insurance-driven dentistry? Then stay tuned for the latest episode of The Lionhearted, where Dr. Stephen Rasner will hand you the blueprint for what many call the gold standard of general practice dentistry.
Hi, everyone. Dr. Steve Rasner here, and welcome to the Lionhearted Dental Podcast. I appreciate you, like you hear me say, every week. It's a lot of fun for me to go on my app and see where you guys are downloading. And I've decided this week that I'm going to purchase Rosetta Stone or Babbel, so I may learn fluent German or Irish speaking. I guess I got the UK down already. You guys continue to pound the downloads. So appreciated. And I mean this, we are going to have a live meeting maybe in 2022, 2023 at the worst. I'll have it in a major city with plenty of time for you to play in the United States. We'll have a live Lionhearted Dental 2-day seminar where we will electrify and rejuvenate everything you have to get you on the track that I need to get you on. So just think about whatever I've been able to do for you through podcast. Imagine what we could do in person. And I'll have a couple other guest speakers as well. I keep saying that, and usually when I say something, it gets done. So tonight I have a very good podcast for you. I think that's one in a row. I hope I'm kidding. This is what this podcast is about. I like to give you a title so you get a flavor from what we're going to hear over the next 25 minutes. And this one's called Making Your Life Better, One Podcast at a Time, and the Payoff of Delegating. Just don't push off right now. This is too important. You know, I sit there during the week. I'm not kidding. This is how I do these things. And I write down the things that happen to me that make being a dentist easier, and when I make it difficult by my behavior, by actions I do. And, you know, recently we talked, in fact, it was the last podcast, about just how hard this is, even when everything goes right. Okay? If you didn't tune in last week, watch it, listen to it. I acknowledged that the reason so many of us struggle and burn out from time to time, and sometimes permanently, is because this is hard. Even when you get it all right. Am I making this up? Or is every day a brand new Super Bowl for you? It's a new game. Every day. You could have an amazing day yesterday and anticipate the logical scenario that you'll have one tomorrow. And sometimes that does happen. In fact, it happens for weeks and months at a time. Often for me. And then bam, I am brought back down to the reality of what you and I chose to do with our lives. It doesn't mean it can't be amazing. I don't know, very few things. I guess if I got to work with animals all day and could get paid for that, that would be pretty amazing. Rescues, stuff like that. But in the meantime, over the last 40 years, I chose this thing called dentistry. And I have, for the most part, made it incredibly manageable and fun for me. And that's what this podcast for the last 2 years have been all about. So I want to talk about one of the ways I am able to do that. You know, from time to time, some of you reach out to me and you will ask me, how do you do all this? How do you get everything done that Steve Rasner does? And first of all, I'm nothing. There's a lot of professionals way more accomplished at getting things done than this guy. Because what happens a lot of times is I tell myself it's okay to not get stuff done. But you can't do that in the beginning. Not if you want to maximize. Do you hear what I'm saying? Not if you want to maximize all the energy you have put forth from the time somewhere in college or even before where you decided you wanted to get into dentistry. And then, of course, you went to dental school. And we all know what that was like for most of us. an unbelievable curriculum for 4 years and hard work, and then the national boards and all the state boards and all the things that you did to become who you are. And it's worth it, man. I'm not going to use tonight to sell you on why dentistry, to me, is a great selection amongst the many other medical health professional careers you could have chosen. But, to sum it up in a sentence or two, I work 4 days a week, like many of you. I don't work weekends. I haven't taken a weekend telephone call. I'm not kidding about this. Maybe I have, and I don't remember, one or two in the last 20 years. And it's not because I'm above that. It is because I put out so much, like a lot of you do, from Monday through Thursday, that I need a break. So it kind of goes with the theme of tonight. I have delegated. So let me just tell you about that one, because it wasn't on my little cheat sheet to talk about with you tonight. So I took the time, and you're going to hear this theme over and over again in the next 20 minutes, which you're going to have to do. You're going to have to put your phone down, get off Facebook or Instagram, quit reading nonsense that brings nothing to your life. I mean it. It's not even hard, because once you start doing that, you've just discovered significant time in each of our days. We all do it. I know why we do it. It's an escape. I love sports, and I still spend too much time on ESPN. And I'm not saying you don't need to deviate from the rigors of what we do. You do need to do that. You got to look yourself in the mirror, honestly, and say, am I spending too much time, wasting time on this telephone and not getting where I want to be in my career, whether you're a D3, 4 student, a young graduate working in an associateship? What are you going to do? Get stuck and not take the time to plan your success and just get stuck in an associateship and have a horizontal pattern of non-growth in your life for 3 years? If it's a great associateship and it's paying you dividends and you're learning skills that some of you have those associateships. But sometimes we got to do stuff and make money, and you just can't get stuck in a bad role model situation. So you got to put stuff down, especially those of you that have opened up a practice, whether it's a year ago or 20 years ago. It is easy to get into the automatic pilot of not growing and expanding the efficiency of your practice. And the problem with that is it all falls back on you. That's why some of you do not enjoy dentistry right now, because you're spending too much time doing other stuff instead of fine-tuning that organization that you have. And this is how you do that. You do that by delegating. But you can't delegate, my friends, unless you take the time, which requires energy and time, to teach the people that work for you. Did this ever happen to you? Just tell me. That you thought something was done, off your list. It feels good, right? Running a practice, there's a lot of hats to wear. There's a lot of different things I have to do and you have to do. And I love it when I think something's finished and done. And then it wasn't done. You found that out. You can feel that right now, can't you? I can feel it. I know what it feels like to think I got something done off my list. This is going to sound incredibly mundane to all you guys, because it is. But I noticed in the last 4 months that 2 of my beautiful A-deck chairs that are 10 years old have a rip in the seat portion, as if somebody had a pen sticking out or something sharp. I got this gorgeous operatory with a rip in the seat. 2 of them, actually, of 7 chairs. Nobody else, by the way, notices that, but I do. So I gave it to somebody. I thought they were ordered. And I forgot. For 3 months that I had even done that. We're busy, right, during the day? I never saw the rip in my conscious state, even though I might have been looking at it. So then it reoccurred to me that I went to the person I asked to order the seat cover to fix it. And then when I realized that it still wasn't repaired, I went to the person that I originally had gone to, and I found out that she had spoken to a few people and she had forgotten the task. So here's the number one thing, the takeaway about this is that you need to find the people in your office, whether it's a team of 3 or a team of 20 like mine. There are members of your team that have this amazing asset, and the asset is you ask them to get something done one time and you know it'll get done. And those people deserve to be rewarded financially if that is their true character, and you can consistently count on them for this. But this is what I did. I want you to know this. I didn't get mad. That doesn't do anything if you get mad. I went to the person and taught them. I actually had them watch me call the person they had called. So I went to them and said, who have you spoken to when you've been talking to these company about getting the seats repaired? And they gave me the number. I said, so I want you to watch how I handle this. I'm not kidding. This is what I did. And I know that sounds incredibly, oh my God, why is he wasting my time with this tonight? Because that's how you get things done. If you really want to relieve yourself of all the burdens, all the little bumps in your practice, then you teach people and you cross-train people to go out of their element. And the only person that can really teach them is you, unless you've taught somebody else that knows how you like things done. I signed up for a course. This is true. I signed up for a course 2 weeks ago, and I realized at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's always 4 o'clock in the morning, isn't it? You get up to go to the bathroom and you come back, and one cognizant, real idea comes in your head and you're done. And that's what happens to me. And I realized that I never received an email confirmation of the course I'm going to next Friday that I had made travel arrangements for even. So as I speak to you right now, I'm taking a course next Friday in New York, and I have a plane ticket. I have a hotel, but I'm not registered for the course. If I get bumped out, well, it won't be good. So I'm going to tomorrow teach the person that made that reservation how to make that not happen. In other words, how you always have to ask. And she should have put her email in for an email confirmation and to follow up on things. And I know I'm giving you little things. Can you imagine all the other things that go in to running the office that are much more important than what I'm telling you right now? You know, scanner training. We bought a scanner just a few months ago, to be honest. And I've noticed that the assistants aren't utilizing, like they would skip and we would go back to analog hard impressions. And again, it takes me. It's up to me to stop and notice and teach. And it happens at my front desk all the time. I lost a patient yesterday. Let me explain why. And I'm going to tell you how I'm going to handle it. I lost a patient because when she went to, by the way, schedule a crown, a single unit crown, she found out she had an old balance, and she was furious because she said, I paid the money I was quoted to pay. And a lot of times when I'm in treatment and you're in treatment, I add in a service that if I add it in and it wasn't in the treatment plan, then it's on me. And I do it almost every single day. God knows how many hundreds of thousands of dollars I give away. So in that patient, I had probably thought I didn't need a core, which is 400 hours in my office, about that. And I did a core, and I don't know how it got dropped. So when she went to the desk, they billed her for a core, even though it wasn't on the treatment plan. And that's unacceptable. You want to lose faith in a patient? I sit here tonight, and for many, many of my podcasts, I've given you these astonishing numbers. You know why they're astonishing? Some of them, most of that comes from long-term patients that trust me You want to, so you know that I get paid up front, right? I've told you that. That means I treatment plan up front, of course, not on the go. I'm not doing myopic care one tooth at a time. By the way, this patient's particular treatment, it wasn't just a crown. I misspoke. It was a crowning of a tooth that is beginning to crack, and she's having symptoms, very early symptoms, and you know what they are, of that problem. So not only do I have to repair the tooth that's cracked with a full coverage crown, I have to improve her envelope of function and her lateral excursions, and she has divots and is worn out on the linguals of many of her interior teeth. So that's part of the treatment plan as well. And when she, and I explained all this to her, and I showed her with a mirror or the oral camera in all of our rooms, because this was a patient that really required that. But that all comes from trust. You want to breach the trust? You want to lose patients? Add on charges to the treatment plan that you quoted. So that is why you've heard me say in the past, treatment plan for the worst scenario. An example, I have a patient that needs a lot of crown and bridge. And to me, the caries looks like it's going to be in the nerve canal. But the patient's asymptomatic, and there's not a periapical area there either. But my eyes tell me, by looking at her clinically, and by looking at the x-ray, that it's in. That's a treatment plan for a root canal in my office. And I've said this to you before, but you can't, because you can't go in and not, in my opinion, include that, and then have them in the chair. This is a week after they paid you, whatever they paid you, and now add on another $1,200 because you didn't know. You may think that's okay. I don't think that's okay. And the patient may not get up and walk out of your office at that moment. I know this. When you say and explain to them very earnestly, hey, I didn't know this was going to be in your nerve. I'm sorry. We do need to do a root canal. That's a bad karma scene, man. So what do I do if that happens? First of all, it rarely happens. And if I don't include it, I make a big point of telling them I'm not including it. And it is even written on their treatment plan. It's true. So breaching trust, I lost a patient. She was a nice patient too. And it bothers me. So you got to decide when you hear these podcasts in your head. And I don't know how many different ways to say this to you. How bad do you want to reach the top of your potential in dentistry? How bad do you want that? Are you perfectly fine right now? Then stay on your telephone endless hours and watch television right before you go to bed. I know this sounds like a buzzkill. Some of you are saying, what the hell's wrong with that? I did it for years. I did. Look, you got X amount of hours in a day, man. And I would give it a lot of my energy to get myself in a spot in the place I go every day to 4 days a week, 8 hours a day to earn a living, to give that so much energy through delegating my team, cross-training my team, constantly teaching them. I had a 10-minute meeting with my team today. That happened yesterday. To hit the nail on the head. I didn't yell at them or anything. I came to the front and said, listen, I'm aware of what happened yesterday with Mrs. Jones. And I want you to tell me how that happened. And how can we never let that happen again? And we did come up with a solution. The ball was dropped in several arenas, several areas in my office. So, I can tell you after 41 years, right now, a lot of areas of my daily practice have improved because I have taught the hygienist how to write a Steve Rasner new patient write-up. By the way, nobody's written to me this week. If you want an example of what a write-up like that looks like, it's typed, obviously. And it's very thorough. It is so easy Because most of us don't tape that conversation that's going on in that initial visit between you, the patient, and their significant other if they're in that room with them. I even bought, by the way, a very high-end tape recorder, and I've flirted with the idea of taping it. I haven't done it because I've kind of trained who's ever in that room to write up a chart, and it's taken me a while, the way I would write up that new patient chart. I've also done that with surgeries because I do a lot of surgery. And you got to understand, part of that write-up is all the treatment plans that were discussed, not just the treatment plan that was accepted, but the treatment plans I discussed that may have been declined. Maybe they declined an implant over denture. I want that in that chart, of course. So I've only been sued one time in 41 years, and it was a patient that had malignant hypothermia. So it was a pretty significant thing that happened. Discussion for another day. And I settled that. It was $10,000. I'm not telling you all this because I've been sued a bunch of times, because I haven't. I'm telling you because I want to go to the chart. This is the real reason I do it. The day of treatment commencing, and that patient at that moment is sedated, by the way, in 60 to 75% of my cases. And I need to be refreshed with what happened that day. And when I open that chart, I find myself saying, oh yeah, that's this guy, huh? Gosh, I forgot about this. And he wants this done by Thanksgiving because he's gone on vacation, et cetera, et cetera. So let's end it with this. Things you could teach that you should be teaching. Have you ever gone in to a new patient exam or any exam, and you go in on the x-rays and you really can't see the apex of a couple teeth? That's your fault for accepting that x-ray. So until you go back nicely to the hygienist and say, or the dental assistant, I want to show you this. Do you see this right here? I can't see the root tips. Can you? Now, don't tell me that everybody that works for you takes a complete, perfect A type of full mouth series every time they do it, because I know they don't. But you, like myself, are permissive, or you're not in the mood to, it's pretty close. You can't see the apex. It's not pretty close. So all this stuff adds up to less anxiety for me in a given 8 hours, and usually results. And the other thing was slowing down that I've told you on several podcasts. You know, if you're afraid to slow down because you're afraid that you won't produce enough, then you may want to examine your fee structure again. So, you know, your hygiene preparation. Did you ever walk in a room and the hygienist says to you that they're a little sore on a given tooth? And then what's your natural response? Is, oh, do you have a PA of that? And I would bet you that at least 75% of you watching have a team that knows, but you got to teach your team that. That's my experience. Don't tell me about a tooth if you haven't taken an x-ray of a tooth that is symptomatic, for goodness sake. A patient comes in and expresses interest in implant dentistry. Well, then don't call me in to do my exam unless you have a CBCT up and ready to be looked at. So here's the takeaway tonight. You need to write down this weekend all the little things, start with that may occur between Monday and Friday in your office that make your life harder. And then say, what's the solution? If I taught this person to do this and that. I'll give you one last example before I close. Any of you struggle when you're working on the maxilla? You don't know why it's harder, because you're used to taking the mirror every 3 seconds and wiping it off and then looking again and then proceeding with using the drill. Well, when you work on the maxilla in an area that you're doing a lot of drilling, maybe you're converting a lot of old amalgams to composites or you're doing crowns, have a second assistant in that room just for that. And if you only have an office of 3 or 4, do what I did 25 years ago, and that is cross-train. Those of you watching me right now see I'm being joined by Tabitha, one of my 3 cats. I don't know. I know I don't look like a cat guy, but there she is. So another thing I do is when I'm doing core buildups or having trouble. See, we got a lot to talk about because I have a floating assistant that's trained in multiple arenas so that when I have trouble with isolation, I have not 2 hands, I have 4 hands helping. One's providing the materials, the other hand is totally dedicated to saliva control and isolation. And I know a rubber dam would solve a lot of that as well. And we don't use that on every patient. So I hope this helped you thinking. You got to think of the things that are correctable. A lot of them just require you being vigilant. At the moment that thing is happening, you have to take notes and then say, how am I going to solve this? It's a little thing. And I think about it, so I know some of you think about it. Thanks for being with me this week. Email me, Dr. Rasner, DrRasner, @AOL.com. See you then.